Lonely in a big city. Words that comfort. The city never sleeps. Lights flicker through apartment windows, cars rush past on crowded streets, and thousands of voices fill the air. Yet, inside a small, rented room, one person sits in silence, feeling like a ghost in the middle of a crowd. This is the strange paradox of living in a big city, surrounded by millions, yet carrying a loneliness that feels heavier than silence itself. Many people between the ages of 25 and 40 know this feeling well. Moving to a new city for work or study brings opportunity, but it also means leaving behind family dinners, childhood friends, and the comfort of familiar places. You find yourself staring out at endless towers of glass and concrete, wondering if anyone notices your presence. That is why we created Learn English Listening. My name is Lydia, and here we share stories that not only teach English, but also speak to your heart. In every video, you will learn new phrases that guide you through real emotions, helping you improve your English while feeling understood. Today, we will focus on the ache of loneliness in a big city and the gentle words that can bring comfort. Loneliness can make even the loudest street sound empty. But language, especially simple words of encouragement, can open a window in that dark room. Together, we will explore English phrases that remind you are seen, you are valued, and you are not walking this journey alone. Before we begin, I'd love to connect with you. Which city are you joining us from, and what hour is it there? Your answer might surprise someone reading the comments and help another person realize they are not the only one awake tonight. In your 20s and 30s, life often feels like a race. You move to the city because that is where the jobs are, the schools are, and the dreams seem to live. But when the long workday ends and you unlock the door to an empty apartment, the silence can greet you louder than any noise outside. It is in that silence that comparison begins to grow. You scroll through social media and see photos of friends gathered together, smiling with families or traveling with partners. Meanwhile, your own dinner might be a simple takeaway meal eaten alone at the kitchen counter. The weight of these images can whisper, maybe you are falling behind. Maybe you are missing something essential. Loneliness in the city is not just about being physically alone. It is about carrying responsibilities without anyone nearby to share them. Rent, bills, deadlines, and the daily grind pile up, and you find yourself wondering, am I strong enough to do this by myself? The pressure can be crushing, especially when everyone else seems to be thriving. Yet hidden inside this struggle is a truth. The feeling of being invisible is more common than you think. Millions of people walk down the same crowded streets every day, each carrying untold stories of longing, heartbreak, or the simple desire to be noticed. Sometimes the very person sitting next to you on the train is experiencing the same ache you feel. When we name the struggle, when we admit that the city can be both exciting and isolating, something shifts. We begin to see that loneliness does not mean weakness. It simply means we are human, wired for connection. So let me ask you, have you ever woken up and felt you had no choice but to keep going? That moment, that heavy sigh, is one of the clearest signs that you are not alone in what you feel. What if loneliness, instead of being a wall, could become a doorway? The secret key is not in escaping the city or erasing the silence, but in learning the words that shift how we experience it. Language has the power to carry us through dark seasons. And even in English, simple phrases can act like a hand reaching out in the night. The first phrase is, "You're not alone." At first, it sounds obvious, But when repeated in a whisper to yourself, it becomes a lifeline. Imagine walking home after a long day, repeating softly, "You're not alone." These words remind you that countless others have walked the same path, and that connection is possible even if you do not see it yet. The second phrase is, "This too shall pass." This is one of the most comforting truths in any language. No emotion, however sharp, lasts forever. The loneliness you feel today may be replaced tomorrow by a call from a friend, a new opportunity, or the courage to join a group you have been avoiding. Saying, "This too shall pass," anchors you in the truth that the present moment is only one chapter, not the whole story. And the third phrase is reach out. Loneliness often grows when we wait for others to notice us, but healing begins when we take the first step. To reach out means to send that message, make that call, or smile at a neighbor. It does not guarantee instant closeness, but it opens the door to possibility. One young professional shared how she survived her first year in the city by keeping these phrases in mind. Each night, when she felt swallowed by the crowd, she would write them down in her notebook. Slowly, they gave her courage to join an English class, where she met friends who understood her struggles. Sometimes, the key is not to wait for loneliness to disappear, but to carry these words until they guide you toward connection. There comes a moment when the weight of loneliness feels almost unbearable. Perhaps it is a Friday night, when laughter drifts up from the street outside, and you sit on the edge of your bed with nothing but the hum of the refrigerator for company. In that moment, the city feels like a stranger that refuses to acknowledge your existence. One evening, a man who had recently moved for work sat in his apartment, scrolling endlessly through photos of people who seemed to have perfect lives. He felt smaller with every image, convinced that nobody would notice if he disappeared from this giant glittering city. Then his phone lit up with a message from an old classmate. "Hey, just checking in. How are you doing?" That one sentence was like a spark in the darkness. He wrote back honestly, and for the first time in weeks, he felt seen. This is the turning point many of us long for. It rarely comes in grand gestures, but in small connections, an unexpected text, a neighbor holding the elevator, or the courage to join a language class where everyone is just as nervous as you. The words, "You're not alone," begin to move from theory to truth. And here is the heart of it. Loneliness is not erased by a city full of strangers, but by one moment of courage, your courage to reach out. The young woman who joined her English class discovered friends who laughed at her mistakes and celebrated her progress. What once felt like isolation turned into a story of belonging. Sometimes, courage feels fragile, like a candle flickering against the wind. But even that small flame is enough to guide your steps forward. It is proof that even in your weakest moment, the choice to connect can become your greatest strength. So I ask you, if you could change just one thing about your week to feel less lonely, what would it be? Maybe it is sending a message. Maybe it is sitting in a cafe instead of staying home. Or maybe it is practicing a phrase that reminds you of your strength. The choice begins with you. Loneliness can feel like walking through a city at midnight with only neon lights and empty sidewalks as your companions. Yet even in the deepest night, the streetlights still shine, guiding every traveler who dares to keep moving forward. This is the gift of reframing, to see that your solitude is not a punishment, but a season in which growth quietly takes root. Think of yourself as a garden in the middle of tall buildings. From the outside, it might seem hidden, unnoticed, even forgotten. But under the surface, roots are stretching, preparing for a new season of blooming. Loneliness, when embraced with patience, can become the soil where resilience and creativity grow. The phrase, "this too shall pass," becomes more than comfort. It becomes a compass. It reminds you that feelings are like waves. They rise, they crash, but they also recede. Tonight's silence may sting, but tomorrow could bring laughter from an unexpected call or a new friendship formed in the most ordinary place. When you practice saying, "You're not alone," you slowly begin to notice the small signs of connection all around you. The barista who remembers your order, the colleague who offers help, the stranger who nods as you pass by. Each gesture whispers that even in a vast city, threads of belonging are already weaving into your story. And when those threads begin to appear, loneliness no longer feels like emptiness, but like the pause before music begins again. It becomes a reminder that the story is still unfolding and that your chapter of connection may be closer than you think. Loneliness will visit, but it does not own you. You have the power to breathe, to reach out, and to walk forward knowing that every step is part of your unfolding strength. At the end of this journey, you stand at a quiet crossroad. The tall buildings around you remain the same, the traffic still hums, and the city does not suddenly shrink to fit your heart. But something inside has shifted. You now carry words that can light the dark corners. You're not alone. This too shall pass. Reach out. The crossroad is not between staying in the city or leaving it. It is between two choices that live inside you. One path is isolation, allowing the silence to close in, convincing yourself that no one would understand. The other path is connection, taking a breath, sending a message, joining a conversation, or simply telling yourself the truth. You are seen, you matter, and you have the power to build bridges even in the busiest streets. At this moment, you stand between isolation and connection. Which path will you take? If this video gave you comfort, I invite you to share it with someone who may also feel alone tonight. You never know how much a simple video, a phrase, or even a comment can mean to someone's heart. And if you would like to continue walking this path of English and encouragement together, subscribe to Learn English Listening. With every story we tell, you will not only improve your English, but also find words that keep you company in life's hardest hours.